My dad used me as a scapegoat to save his job. You'll be fine, he said as he signed my termination letter. I struggled for years. Now, his company is on the brink of collapse. Please, he begged at the investors' meeting. I learned forward. Why should I save a man who ruined me? I still remember the ink drying on the paper. My name at the bottom, scrawled in neat, corporate-approved letters. Termination. Effective immediately. Dad wouldn't meet my eyes. His fingers drummed against the mahogany desk, his signature already in place at the top. You'll be fine, he said, voice flat, distant. Like I was some intern he barely knew. Like I hadn't spent years breaking my back for this company. His company. I swallowed the lump in my throat. This isn't a cutback, is it? Silence. My fingers curled into fists. You're throwing me under the bus. Finally, he looked up. His expression was unreadable, except for the faintest flicker of something behind his eyes. Guilt? Doubt? Whatever it was, he buried it fast. The board needs someone to blame, he said smoothly. You're young. You'll bounce back. I let out a breathless laugh. Unbelievable. You think that makes this okay? A sigh. Annoyed. Like I was the one making this hard. This isn't personal, Nathan. My chest burned. It's my life. He leaned forward, lowering his voice. And it's my company. My reputation. I built this from nothing, and I won't let one mistake destroy it. I should have seen it coming. The moment the fraud allegations started circling, I should have known my father, James Sterling, the great businessman, the visionary, would find a way out. And if that meant sacrificing his own son, so be it. Security walked me out that day. Years of loyalty erased in minutes. And just like that, I was gone. The next few years were hell. No one would hire me. My name was smeared across every business news outlet. Nathan Sterling, accused of financial misconduct. Never convicted, never even charged, but that didn't matter. Perception was everything. I lost everything. My apartment, my savings, friends who suddenly weren't picking up their phones. My mother, divorced from dad years ago, offered help, but I couldn't bring myself to take it. I worked odd jobs. Bartender, warehouse grunt, anything to keep from drowning. And through it all, my father thrived. Sterling Enterprises continued to rise. Stock prices rebounded. He moved on like nothing had happened, like I never existed. But fate has a funny way of coming back around. Because now, years later, his world is the one crumbling. I got the call last night. A desperate voice on the other end. One of his board members. The company's in free fall. Investors are pulling out. A scandal is brewing. And this time, there's no easy scapegoat. They need a miracle. They need me. I almost laughed when they asked me to come in. But then I thought, no, this is perfect. I arrived at the investors' meeting early, watching from the shadows as my father paced the room. He looked older now, weaker. His suit hung looser, his posture not as confident. The moment he saw me, he froze. Nathan. I smiled, slow and sharp. Dad. A flicker of something in his face. He masked it quickly. We don't have time for. He stopped, exhaled. I need your help. The great James Sterling. Begging. I leaned forward, letting the silence stretch, watching the sweat bead on his brow. Then I whispered, why should I save the man who ruined me? Silence stretched between us. Heavy. Suffocating. My father, James Sterling, the man who once stood untouchable, sat across from me, desperation bleeding through the cracks in his carefully curated image. His fingers twitched, his jaw clenched. I could feel the weight of the moment. The power shift. Years ago, he had held my fate in his hands, signing my termination like it was nothing. Now, he needed me. I let the question hang in the air, watching him squirm. Why should I save the man who ruined me? He swallowed hard. Nathan. His voice lacked its usual commanding tone. We don't have time for this. The company is on the brink. If we don't act now, it's over. I tilted my head, feigning curiosity, and his brows furrowed. And I leaned back, tapping a finger against the polished table. I don't see the problem. If Sterling Enterprises collapses, well, sounds like justice to me. A sharp inhale. His eyes darkened. There was that flicker of the man who had betrayed me. The businessman who could cut throats with a handshake. But he needed me too much to lash out. Not yet. I know you're still angry, he said carefully, voice measured. I laughed. Oh, you think? He sighed, pinching the bridge of his nose. Nathan, listen. The investors are losing faith. There's talk of pulling funding. If that happens, thousands of employees will lose their jobs. Good people, people who had nothing to do with what happened before. His eyes locked onto mine. You can't let your grudge destroy innocent lives. I studied with him. The guilt card? Clever. He always did know how to spin things. I exhaled slowly. You're assuming I care about your company, about your employees. I tapped my chest. You didn't care about me. His jaw clenched. I did what I had to do. There it was. The same excuse. The same hollow justification. I pushed back from the table, shaking my head. I don't owe you anything. A flicker of panic crossed his face. Nathan, no, I stood. You built this company. You ruined me to save it. And now it's dying. That's on you. His lips parted, but for the first time, he had no words. I turned to leave. Then, Just as I reached the door, he played his final card. I have proof. My steps halted. Slowly I turned. What? He exhaled, his shoulders slumping. Proof that you were innocent. My pulse slammed against my ribs. Lies. It had to be. A manipulation tactic. A desperate attempt to reel me back in. And yet, something about the way he said it, about the way his voice wavered, made my stomach twist. I crossed my arms. Keep talking. His fingers curled into fists against the table. There were documents. Reports that showed you weren't responsible for the missing funds. I buried them. A beat of silence. Then, I had no choice. My breath hitched. He knew. The entire time. I clenched my jaw, forcing my voice to stay even. Where are they? He hesitated. That split second was enough. You don't have them. I realized, my voice deadly calm. Do you? A muscle in his jaw ticked. I took a step forward. Where are they, Dad? His throat bobbed. He looked away. Someone else has them. Rage burned through me. Unbelievable. All these years. All the suffering. And the proof of my innocence had been out there, hidden, because he chose to protect himself. I could have cleared my name. I could have lived. I sucked in a sharp breath, forcing myself to think. If those documents existed, I needed them. Now, my father must have seen the shift in my expression because he straightened. If we can find them, we can fix this. I almost laughed, but I didn't have time for bitterness. Not now. Not when the truth was this close. I exhaled. Who has them? His gaze met mine. Elliot Vance. I stiffened. Of course. Elliot Vance, my father's former right-hand man. The same man who had benefited the most from my downfall. He had climbed the corporate ladder while I had been tossed to the wolves. And now, he held the key to everything. I ran a hand down my face. Where is he? My father hesitated. Then, reluctantly, he's expecting you. I stilled. What? His fingers tapped against the table again, a nervous tick I hadn't seen in years. I called him before this meeting. My stomach twisted. This was a setup. I took a slow step forward, lowering my voice. Tell me this isn't another one of your games. His silence was deafening. I sucked in a sharp breath. I should have known. The moment I walked into this meeting, I should have known my father wouldn't just ask for my help. He'd control the situation. But I wasn't the same desperate son he had discarded years ago. I'm smarter now. Stronger. And if he thought he could manipulate me into fixing his mess, he was in for a surprise. I turned for the door. If Vance is expecting me, then let's not keep him waiting. And this time, I'd be the one calling the shots. The city blurred past as I drove, knuckling white against the steering wheel. My father sat beside me, silent. Smart choice. He had already played his hand. Now it was my turn. Elliot Vance. The name alone made my skin crawl. Back when I was still in Sterling Enterprises, he had been my father's most trusted confidant. Cold. Calculating. A man who knew exactly when to smile and when to strike. He had been there when I fell. Had probably helped push me off the ledge. And now he expects me. I flex my fingers, try to ease the tension. If Vance has the documents, why hasn't he used them? My father shifted in his seat. He will, when the time is right. I scoffed. And when is that? When you're completely ruined? Silence. I exhaled sharply, focusing on the road. This was a trap. I knew it. My father knew it. But there was no turning back now. If those documents were real, if my innocence had been buried all these years, I needed them. The address led us to a high-rise in the heart of the city. Not an office. A penthouse. Private. Controlled. I pulled up, killing the engine. The valet approached, but I waved him off. No way was I handing over the car. Not tonight. I turned to my father. You stay here. He frowned. Nathan, I shot him a look. I'm not walking into a snake pit with another snake at my side. His jaw tightened, but he didn't argue. Good. I stepped out, adjusting my sleeves, rolling the tension out of my shoulders. Whatever waited upstairs, I had to be ready. The elevator ride was smooth. Too smooth. Like everything had been prepared. The door slid open to reveal a sleek, dimly lit lounge. Floor-to-ceiling windows stretched across the room, offering a breathtaking view of the city. A bar stood in the corner, bottles lined up like trophies. And in the center, seated comfortably in a leather chair, was him, Elliot Vance. He looked exactly the same. Expensive suit. That trademark smirk that always felt a little too knowing. He swirled a glass of whiskey, watching me with amusement. Nathan. He gestured to the seat across from him. It's been a while. I didn't sit. Cut the small talk, Vance. You have something that belongs to me. He chuckled, taking a slow sip of his drink. Straight to business. Just like your father. I ignored the jab. The documents. Where are they? He leaned back, considering me. You know, I always admired you. You had potential. A little too much, if I'm being honest. He tilted his head. That's why James had to cut you loose. My fingers curled into fists. I don't need a history lesson. Vance sighed dramatically. Fine. Yes, I have the documents. Yes, they prove your innocence. And yes, I could give them to you. He set his glass down. But why would I do that? There it was. The real game. I exhaled slowly. What do you want? His smirk widened. Smart boy. He gestured lazily. Your father's company is circling the drain. If those documents come to light, not only do you clear your name, but you destroy him in the process. The investors will see he framed his own son, and whatever shred of credibility he has left. Gone. I said nothing. He leaned forward. Or you could let it all die. Let Sterling Enterprises collapse under the weight of its own sins. Walk away and leave your father to rot in the mess he created. My chest tightened. Either way, my father lost. Either way, his empire burned. I should have wanted that. I should have relished the thought of watching him suffer. But then Vance's smirk deepened. That's what you want, isn't it? He murmured. To win. And suddenly I saw it. The game wasn't just about revenge. It wasn't about justice. It was about control. Vance wanted me to be the one to destroy my father. Not just to clear my name, but to break the last piece of the Sterling legacy. I inhaled sharply. You set this up, didn't you? Vance spread his hands. I simply waited for the right moment. Rage simmered beneath my skin. He had been pulling strings from the shadows, watching as my father's empire crumbled. He had let it happen, and now he wanted me to finish the job. I took a slow step forward. You said you admired me. My voice was quiet, measured, but you underestimated me. Vance raised an eyebrow. Oh, I leaned in. I don't play by your rules. And with that, I grabbed his whiskey glass and threw it against the wall. The shatter echoed through the penthouse. Vance barely flinched, but I saw the flicker of irritation in his eyes. Good. You want me to be your weapon? I continued, voice steady. Not happening. You give me those documents, and I walk out of here. That's the deal. Vance exhaled, shaking his head. You really are your father's son. I was tense. Then he smiled. Fine. Do you want them? Take them. He reached into the desk drawer, pulled out a thick manila envelope, and slid it across the table. I didn't move. It was too easy. Vance leaned back, watching me, waiting. I reached for the envelope, fingers brushing against the paper. Then, the lights cut out. The room plunged into darkness. A crash. A grunt. Heavy footsteps. Someone else was here. I spun around, heart pounding. A sharp impact slammed into my side, sending me stumbling. Voices. Strained breathing. Movement. Then, gunfire. A single deafening shot. Silence. My pulse thundered in my ears as I dropped to a crouch, straining to see through the darkness. Then, slowly, the emergency lights flickered on. Vance lay slumped in his chair. His chest was still, his eyes blank, dead. And, standing over him, gripping a gun with shaking hands, was my father. The world narrowed to the sound of my own heartbeat. Vance was dead, his body slumped against the chair, a single bullet wound darkening his pristine suit. The air smelled of gunpowder and something heavier, finality. And standing over him, breath ragged, gun still clutched in trembling hands, was my father. My stomach twisted. I forced my voice to stay level. What did you do? My father exhaled sharply, lowering the gun. His fingers clenched around the grip like it might anchor him. He was never going to give you the documents. My pulse pounded. You don't know that. His gaze snapped to mine, wild and unsteady. Yes, I do. You think he set all this up just to hand you the truth? He shook his head. Vance was a vulture. He was going to use those documents to blackmail you. To own you. I had to act. I stared at him. At the man who had once been untouchable. Controlled. Cold. Now he looked shaken. But I wasn't buying it. I took a slow step forward. Where did you even get a gun? He let out a short, humorless laugh. You think I don't know how to be prepared? He gestured to Vance's body. I told you, this wasn't just business for him. It was personal. I had to end it. I clenched my jaw. Something felt off. Vance had been playing his own game, sure. But my father? He was always playing something bigger. My eyes flickered to the desk, to the manila envelope still sitting there. Untouched, Vance had offered it to me. No resistance. Just slid it across the table like it was nothing. Too easy. And then the lights went out. The attack. The gunshot. My father had pulled the trigger, not in self-defense, but because he needed Vance gone. My stomach twisted. He hadn't saved me. He had silenced the one man who might have held leverage over him. My father exhaled, shoulders sinking. It's over now. No, it wasn't. I took another step, my voice quieter. Give me the gun. He frowned. Nathan, give me the gun. His jaw tightened. His fingers flexed. Then, after a long, strained moment, he exhaled and placed it on the desk. I didn't reach for it. Instead, I picked up the envelope. The weight of it sent my pulse hammering. My father watched me carefully. You don't have to do this. I tore it open. Pages. Dozens of them. My name scrawled in report after report. Financial audits. Internal memos. Emails. And then, there it was. A document dated 3 years ago. A memo addressed to James Sterling. Per your request, the evidence linking Elliot Vance to the financial discrepancies has been classified. Nathan Sterling will be the designated fall guy. Moving forward, all records will reflect his involvement. This ensures the company's survival and eliminates potential board concerns. Signed. Stamped. Undeniable. My throat tightened. 3 years. 3 years of scraping by, drowning under the weight of a ruined reputation. While he had sat in his office, knowing. I clenched the papers. You knew I was innocent the entire time. My father sighed. Nathan, you let me suffer. My voice was shaking. You watched me lose everything. And for what? So you could keep your empire? He took a step forward. I did what I had to do. I snapped my gaze to him. No, you did what was easiest. His lips pressed into a thin line. I built Sterling Enterprises from the ground up. I made something of it. I wasn't going to let it fall apart because of one mistake. I let out a bitter laugh. Right. And it was convenient. His silence was all the confirmation I needed. I swallowed hard. I should turn these in. Something dark flickered in his expression. You don't want to do that. A warning. I stared at him. At the man who was supposed to protect me. Guide me. Instead, he had destroyed me. And even now, he was still trying to manipulate me. My grip tightened on the documents. I'm done. His eyes narrowed. Meaning I'm not your pawn anymore. I turned for the door. His voice followed, low and sharp. If you release those, you destroy Sterling Enterprises. I didn't stop walking. And yourself. That made me pause. He took a step closer. Think, Nathan. Your name is tied to this company, whether you like it or not. If it falls, you go down with it. A beat. Then, softer. You want justice? Fine. But don't burn yourself in the process. I turned to him, eyes cold. You should have thought of that before you burned me. I walked out, gripping the documents like a lifeline. Behind me, my father didn't call out. Because for the first time, he knew he had already lost. I stepped into the night, gripping the documents so tightly my fingers ached. The city stretched around me, cold and indifferent, just like it had been when I lost everything. But this time, I wasn't leaving empty-handed. This time, I had the truth. I walked to my car, my pulse hammering with every step. My father's last words echoed in my head. If Sterling Enterprises falls, you go down with it. A warning. A THR ad. Maybe both. But I didn't care. I slid into the driver's seat, the envelope resting on the passenger side like a loaded gun. My breath came fast, uneven. For 3 years, I had been drowning under the weight of my father's betrayal. Now, I had the power to bury him. I could take these to the press. Expose him. Destroy everything he built. So why did my hands shake? I clenched my jaw and forced myself to focus. I had a decision to make. And I wasn't making it alone. I pulled out my phone and dialed. The line rang twice before a familiar voice answered. Nathan. A lump rose in my throat. Mom. A pause. Then softly, what happened? I exhaled. She didn't know the details, but she knew the weight in my voice. I have proof, I said. Proof that I was innocent. That dad framed me. Silence. Then, carefully, what are you going to do? I let out a shaky breath. I don't know. Another pause. Then, come home. I closed my eyes. For the first time in a long time, I let myself feel exhausted. The weight of it all. Yeah, I murmured. I'll be there soon. I hung up and started the car. But I wasn't going home. Not yet. I drove through the city, my mind racing. My father thought he had me cornered. He thought I was too tied to Sterling Enterprises to take him down. But he underestimated me. I pulled into a parking garage and grabbed the documents, my decision finally clear. I wasn't going to the press. I was going to the boardroom. By the time I arrived, the board was already gathered. Some looked surprised to see me. Others are wary. And at the head of the table, my father. He met my gaze, his expression unreadable. Nathan. I dropped the envelope onto the table. The board members exchanged glances before one of them reached for the papers. As they read, murmurs spread. Shock. Realization. Then a single question. What is this? I leaned forward, my voice steady. The truth. I turned to my father. For years, you've built your empire on deception, on sacrifice, and you thought you could control the fallout. I shook my head. But this time, you don't get to decide who takes the fall. His jaw clenched. You're making a mistake. I met his gaze. No, I'm fixing yours. The room fell silent. Then, the chairman cleared his throat. James, he said slowly, I think it's time we discuss your future here. My father's face barely changed. But I saw it. The slight shift in his shoulders, the way his fingers curled against the table. For the first time, he knew he had lost. I turned, walking out without another word. Days passed, then weeks. The headlines came fast. James Sterling steps down amid scandal. Sterling Enterprises restructures after internal investigation. His empire didn't collapse, but it changed. He lost everything. His position, his power, his name. And me? I got my life back. Not the one I had before, but something better. I started fresh. Found people who believed in me for who I was, not who I had been forced to become. I never spoke to my father again. But sometimes I wondered if he ever sat in that empty office, staring at the empire he nearly destroyed, knowing that in the end, it wasn't the company that betrayed him. It was his own son, and he had no one to blame but himself.